Hey guys, welcome to Some Joyful Noises, a music podcast with no rhyme, rhythm, or reason. It's our Anazal podcast experimental music dumping ground where if any of the leaders of Anazal podcast or any of you guys listening to any of our show wants to make a music podcast, we just upload it here. There's no schedule, there's no time, there's nothing really. None of us are experts in music, but we understand the importance of music for community building. So we want to engage with it honestly, just like we do everything else. So we're just here staying noisy. And today it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a huge crossover episode because I'm talking about the music in Adventure Time, how it's used throughout the series, its significance, and they want to look a little bit at how we use music similarly. I'm going to shout out a few of the creators because I don't know who does each song or anything like that. So I just want to mention Rebecca Sugar, Ashley Eriksson, Tim Kiefer, and Casey James Versace's. I might be saying that incorrectly, but want to give credit where credit is due. These people were incredible and creating these lyrics, different kinds of music and stuff all throughout this series. And it's used just in incredible ways in storytelling. So it's going to be cross-posted a couple different places. This, of course, is part of Some Joyful Noises, but it's going to be cross-posted to the whole church podcast because we're not doing an episode this week. I took a week off for my birthday and stuff, but I recorded this ahead of time, so I wanted to cross-post that so you guys have something to listen to this week. Also going to be putting up on systematic geekology because one of my favorite fandom things to geek out ever is just Adventure Time. It has been for a while now, so I thought it'd be fair. Plus, we do have a shirt called We're Having a Ball. Or Having a Ball. Yeah, something like that. And it has a dog that kind of looks like Jake on there. So it's worth putting that on systematic geekology. Also, of course, going to cross-post my other podcast, Be Living Water, because I'm talking a lot about Taoism, of all things, and we're talking about Adventure Time in music. So buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride today. Remember, if you can, subscribe, rate and review, share the show with a friend. Subscribing, rating, review, all that stuff just does a lot of getting the word out about the show so people know the show exists. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate all that you guys do. You're all amazing. Also, if you're listening to this on one of the other podcasts, not on Some Joyful Noises, come over to Some Joyful Noises, subscribe, see what else we're doing over here. If you're listening on Some Joyful Noises, you haven't subscribed to Whole Church or Cinematic Ecology or Be Living Water, all those are shows I'm really proud of. We do a lot of good work over there, so consider a little cross-pollination, checking out all of our shows here on the Anazal Podcast Network. The link to the network website will be below, so if you want to just check it all out and see what as I always do, if you want to find what's useful, discard what's not, and add a little bit of your own, you can do that. You can do that right there. Today, we're talking, though, about Adventure Time. So let me do a little bit of background of what is Adventure Time. So it's an animated television series that was put up on Cartoon Network. Now it's available on HBO Max. Explaining Adventure Time, it's difficult. It's a weird show. So, post-apocalyptic world, kind of. It is post the Great Mushroom War, which is implied to be a nuclear war that took place before all the candy people and everything that we see in the series. What happens in the show, we're way past that. There are now people who are made of candy, people who are flame people. There's one human. It's all that's left, allegedly. We find out that that's not true. Finn the human, and then he has his dog, Jake the dog, who has magical, stretchy powers. They live in this kind of fantasy world. We have candy people, we have dragons, we have dungeons. It's very much like Dungeons and Dragons kind of esque thing as well going on. A lot of existential crisis, just crazy, wild and out world. Starts off with just like Finn and Jake, these two guys, Finn being like a 12-year-old kid, and Jake his magical older dog brother. He was adopted by dogs who could talk, don't worry about it. And they go to Princess Bubblegum, who is the princess in charge of the Candy Kingdom. She gives them all these little quests and journeys, and they go out and fight and protect the Candy Kingdom, right? Series goes on. They end up finding the Lich, which is this like entity of just like death and darkness and badness, and came out of the Mushroom War, perhaps. They see Glob, which is like a cosmic entity that is like God. They have Martians. They have all kinds of just wild stuff. So Finn and Jake, it's the human, the dog. They're just two brothers who like to go adventuring, who like to be heroes. Finn's got the hero heart, and Jake's just kind of is there for the ride kind of deal. Jake's awesome. Jake is me. BMO, kind of like a robot they adopted who acts like a young child, who plays imaginary games. He's this pure imaginary, well, not imaginary, he's pure, he's real, but he's a little robot with a great imagination. Young kid kind of deal. Wonderful character. Princess Bubblegum, very nuanced, ruler of the Candy Kingdom. Sometimes does stuff that you're like, hey, is she evil? But usually fights for good. So you're question mark about Princess Bubblegum. I think maybe evil, but has a redemptive story, and I think might be good by the end. Unsure. Marceline's the vampire queen. She's awesome. Also the daughter of like basically their version of Satan, and uh, ends up with vampire powers. Is the only vampire left because reasons. They go through it in a really awesome storyline called Stakes, but we're not going to go through it there. Talk about Simon or Ice King. That is a man who found Marceline as a young child, this weird kid who was alone right after the Great Mushroom War, and he finds a way to protect her. He finds this magical crown that causes him to start losing his mind. He literally becomes insane, but he gains these ice powers, and he's able to protect her from zombies and all the stuff that came out of the nuclear war. Eventually completely loses his mind by the time the series starts, and he's just the Ice King, this mad, crazy guy with ice powers that everyone's like, oh, that bad guy. Kind of a tragic story, you find out later on. The Flame Princess, who was captured from her father, ends up becoming the ruler of the Fire Kingdom. She is very fiery, very passionate, also young like Finn. They dated once but broke up. Um, Flame Princess is their kingdom. The Fire Kingdom is just all passion. They're more inclined to war and fighting, but they're not bad. They're just that's their personality type. Um, talk about Tay later. Also want to talk a little bit about Golb. We'll talk about later. So they have Glob, which is like their version of God. A lot of times we go, oh my Glob. But Golb ends up coming near the end of this, who is the pure entity of discord, disarray. And yeah, they got a lot of cosmic entities, so it wasn't like a weird thing that came out of nowhere. They earned it through the 10 series. And we'll talk about that near the end of this. So those are just some of the characters you guys might want to know about as we get into it. I want everyone to be able to follow this, even if you're not like a huge Adventure Time geek. I want you to know enough that you can follow this and kind of see, because I think what they do with the music really is important. Real quick, before the music stuff, one last thing, the Taoist stuff I want to talk on. They have a lot of cycles in this show. The Lich always comes back, so that's that entity of like war or whatever. He's a servant of Golb, but he looks like just look up the Lich. You got to. He's like scary skeleton demon monster thing, just terrifying for a kid show. And he always comes back. Always comes back. They beat him, and then he comes back. There's these cycles. There's a comet that's inevitably going to hit the Earth because every few million years or whatever, this comet always hits the Earth. It's the same comet. People are starting to see it in dreams and visions. They know it's coming again because there's a cycle. This comet always hits the Earth, and they always have to start over. Life. There's an episode of the cycle of life where Finn and Jake become worms. They get eaten by a bird, so then they become birds, and then the one bird eats the other bird, so then they become bigger birds, and then they become dirt. They're getting eaten by the worms, and they see the cycle of life. They live through it. And even war. We saw the Mushroom War, and at the end of the series, we see what ends up happening is a lot of the characters that they're coming to terms with on that finale episode were characters from their past. They're dealing with their past trauma, their past hurt, and these two armies are coming together, and they're going to have one more war, and that's going to be the finale. Except for it's not. But cycles of war is also an important theme here. Cycles are a big part of Tao, the Tao of nature, the way. That has to do with cycles. When we study, like we see in real life, there are these cycles. There are things that seem to just always happen. They occur again and again. And that's what this show gets at a lot when it talks about cycles, that some things seem to occur again and again. And what we have to do is find a way to make peace with that, not try to stop it, because it's what happens. But how do we make peace with some of these cycles, whether it be the cycle of life? We know that our grandparents are going to pass away one day. And we know that there's going to be new babies that we're going to have, the next generation come up. And how do we deal with that cycle? How do we deal with the cycles of life where some animals become extinct or, whatever? Like, these things happen. And how do we come to terms with that? How do we have harmony with that? So that's the Taoist aspect. They don't say Taoism, they don't say the Tao or harmony, but they show it. They show these cycles, and it's very much like that. Another one was there's this claymation episode they do. They do a lot of like just random different animation episodes. And it's clouds coming. And it's like this giant storm. They're like, oh, we're going to be locked up forever. Or they're making preparations. They're getting canned food, finding ways. It's going to be Finn, Jake, character named Lumpy Space Princess, and Bimo are all going to be stuck. And Lumpy Space Princess, Finn and Jake are all going, Finn and Bimo are all going out and getting material, preparing. And Jake says, no, I think there's something else I need to do. And he has this little notebook, and he keeps going out into nature, and it's making some of them really aggravated. They're like, Why is he doing that? All of us are working so hard to prepare, and he's still going to get to come into the bunker with us, and what's going on? And the end of the episode, this giant cloud breaks into their bunker, and it has a face, and it talks and all this stuff. And Jake shows what he's been working on. He found a way to imitate some of these noises of nature, the birds singing, the creek, crack, the bubbling creeks, all this stuff. And this angry cloud's like, "What? I haven't heard that in so long." It's like, well, you could. You just have to find a way to find nature, to have peace. Because this storm was more than a storm. It was a storm with bad juju, as Jake would say. And they end up finding peace. They help the storm. Instead of just hiding from it or fighting against it, Jake found a way to help it by showing it the harmony of nature. We even have nonviolence as a theme throughout the series, even though they use violence to beat up bad guys. There's one episode, and this is kind of where you're going to get a little bit of nuance when you get to the finale, because both episodes exist in the same show. His name Billy. That's who Jake looked up to, the hero among heroes. It was like his action figure. This guy who went out and always beat up bad guys, and eventually he finds him, and he's in this cave, and Billy gave up fighting. He said, well, you punch a bad guy, and then people you save, they just go get hurt by something else. There's no point. And again, that goes back to that cycle, right? The episode ends up ending with Finn showing him a little old lady that he saved. He said, I tried your way of nonviolence, and people kept getting hurt. So what I did is I beat up the bad guy. And here's this old lady. I saved her. Look, she's fine. Because sometimes, in short term, maybe violence is the answer. Maybe it is okay to beat the bad guy up. So there's a lot of nuance in the show throughout. Now, I want to get to the music stuff, because this is Some Joyful Noises. That's why we're here, right? One of the things you see early on, music's just kind of being used for fun. It's playful. Again, music is community building. So just having some of this fun, just like silliness back and forth, whatever. Even some contemplation, some stuff, time to have meditation, time for yourself. What Finn would do is he learned how to play the flute, some stringed instruments, different stuff, and he'd play them for himself. Sometimes he'd play them for the ladies or other people, but it was more of like a contemplative thing. It was more a thing for himself. So you see a lot of him learning to play instruments. The show isn't a musical, so it's not just like random songs happening. When they happen for a reason. So when Finn's playing his instruments, it's usually because he needs to find inner peace. And he has his flute. He has these things for that. Ends up at the end of the show, one of the meaningful connection he makes, the person he ends up with, is a huntress wizard. It ends up largely because of the flute. And sharing in that inner reflection and peace that he finds. Now about the silliness, the fun, especially early seasons. The show grew up with its audience. It ran for like 10 plus years, whatever, however long it was, 10 seasons. It grew up with its audience. And early on, it was more about fun. And music, sometimes that's good. We need fun. We need fun, community building music. And a lot of people, like myself, or mostly younger people, I think, actually, who grew up with this show, they're going to hear some sound bites. And you'll sing it together and you'll be like, oh, hey, you too. You like this show too. There's that community building. And of course, the most infamous one, the one that I think is pure gold, one of the best things to come out of television. Oh, sorry, I'm mostly joking, but it's just so entertaining for me. Anytime I make pancakes, you're going to hear me do this little number.
Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's going to make. Bacon pancakes.
Yeah, it's perfect. Short little jingle. They do it more than once, and it gets stuck in your head, and it's one of those like, making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. I don't know, man. That's like soul food for me, and that just shows that heart of music. Like sometimes music is for fun and community building. Sometimes it's for a little bit more. So season 3, one of the episodes that we're going to see, this is when the show's starting to mature a little bit. Just starting to. You see hints of it. I mentioned Princess Bubblegum and Marceline. So we have them two, we have Finn, and we have Jake. They're following this demon creature, something that goes into this dungeon that stole something meaning from all of them. And it's behind this wall, and they end up discovering through, usual Dungeons and Dragons, there's some kind of mystery puzzle, whatever, to the wall, and it ends up being like they have to do something honest, be genuine for the wall to open. And the only way they discover that is because Marceline, she's like super punk rock, always has her guitar, always ready for some sad songs, some great stuff, has a song about her dad stealing that French fry, how dare he. But in this moment, she played some, and the door started to open, and then she threw a fit. She ran off. But they come back, and Finn realizes what's happening, and that music is the best way to really show their genuine self, their genuine feelings, what they're processing. So this is when we see music start to take a more genuine and meaningful turn in the show. So this song is What Was Missing. So it starts with Marceline, but here's Finn realizing, of course, Marceline's going to come in with guitar because that's what she does.
You like this? This is what was missing. The truth! What am I to you? Am I a joke? You're not or your brother? What am I to you? Do you look down on me cause I'm younger? Do you think that I don't understand? I just wanted us together and to play as a band. Last night was the most fun I've ever had. Even liked it when the two of you would get mad at each other. Oh, you are my best friends in the world. You are my best friends in the world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not the best music piece or anything, but like just showing that music is a way to be vulnerable, to express yourself, and showing that, like he said, like, oh, that's what you wanted. You wanted truth. That's what the door was waiting to open for. He said, okay, what am I to you? He's questioning, like, what do you see me as? A knight? Your friend? Your brother? And he sings about like this time they started to form a band and the day before, which was something silly, but he's like, that was the best time of my life because it was just with my best friends, and that's all I want. Sometimes all you want is friendship. But I think the thing this music does here is just so powerful is that it's just showing that it's a way to be vulnerable, to be honest. And that's what the show needed, and I'm glad it took this turn and started to mature here. We see it again in season 4, Bitch and Ice King. This is when we first realize what happened. So until season 4, you think Ice King's just this crazy, angry, bad guy who wants to kidnap princesses and freeze things. Here we see why we finally realize why he went mad. He wore that crown to save Marceline as a kid. And now, hundreds of years later, they're both alive, and Marceline's the only one who tolerates him. And everyone's like, why do you like this guy? And turns out it's because he sacrificed everything for her, sacrificed his sanity. What we're going to see in the song is Ice King doesn't remember being Simon. He doesn't remember any of this. But he has these lyrics that he wrote down, these notes that he wrote in like a diary or something. Marceline starts to sing them. And Ice King's playing, and he's having fun because he doesn't know what's going on. But they start to see near the end that there's something going on. There's a connection that even if he doesn't remember, that connection is still there. So it's just showing the power of music, even when there's cognitive decay, even when everything is maybe not as it seems. So it was another powerful moment in the show that had to do with music. Still a little silly, but
Save me, please forgive me for whatever I do when I don't remember you.
Wow, I wrote that. Hot stuff.
What? You don't remember what it means?
Please forgive me for whatever I do
When I don't remember you.
Da-da, da-da.
yeah, there was a note asking Marceline to forgive him for whatever he does when he loses his mind. He doesn't remember it, but he still feels the connection in the music. He knows that there's more there. So that music was able to overcome that cognitive decay. And that's something we know is true in real life. So I'm glad that the show kind of showed that in a pretty meaningful, powerful way there, too. A few of the other ones I'm not going to play, I just want to mention. So there's an episode in season 8 with the music hole. So Finn's gone through all this loss. He lost his arm. He's dealing with the stuff with his dad. Like, he's just in a dark place in the show. A lot of drama going on, right? His friends try to have a battle of the bands going on, and he overhears this voice. Everybody else is playing their music, doing things. Some great numbers. Marceline actually is a good punk rock. Anyway, but he overhears a voice. He's like, what is that? That's the most beautiful voice I ever heard. And nobody else hears it. And he follows it out, and it's just this hole that's a face in the ground. And you only hear if you've gone through great loss or if you have complete innocence. So I'm assuming Bimo probably could hear. Finn was the only one who could hear this hole in the ground with this beautiful voice, and he asked it to sing. And it sang a song about community, about being with one another, about the importance of being together. And man, in a moment when he's going through all this loss and all this pain, it really helped him heal. When all of his friends were trying to throw a party, do all these other things to get him to bounce back from his depression, from his slump, nothing worked. But this hole in the ground, the stranger, sing the song about the importance of community, about being with one another, choosing friends, love each other, even in the midst of loss. Hearing that song is what really began Finn's healing process in the show. So that's another moment where music was just so powerful. There's so many, I couldn't cover all of them. I just want to mention some of these to show you that the show had always used music to be powerful. I think some people write off the finale as like they were just trying to, no, this music has always been an important part of the show, even though it wasn't a musical. Another one, I think this was actually in season 10, is Flame Princess. She ends up being duped into a situation where she's going to lose her kingdom. She accidentally made a bet. Legal stuff, don't worry about it. and she's going to get into a rap battle with the son of Rat Bear. Mind you, Flame Princess actually was doing rap battles and rapping and having fun. Rat Bear was a pre-established character. This is his son. There's a whole story. You end up seeing son of Rat Bear used rap and hurt his father with it. And it turns out, for this episode, for some reason, mad disses in a rap actually causes violence. Like, it's tearing up homes, it's knocking people's legs off. If you have a really good rhyme, that's what could happen here, right? So they're having this battle, and Flame Princess is trying to find a way to beat him at this. And she's like, man, I don't know how to become a better rapper. It's because I've always lived isolated in my kingdom. I need to see more of the world. She's going on these adventures, and she's like, I have more world experience, but I still don't. Something's missing. She couldn't figure out what it was, and it's like she had to find something that was true to herself to sing about, to rap about, right? And she ends up confronting her father, some of her past trauma. So during the rap battle, her father's there even, but not for her. So there's all of these conflicting emotions and stuff. And what she ends up doing is confronting the fact that, like, her dad is who he is, not attacking him like Son of Raptor did to her dad, his dad, sorry. She's not attacking her dad. She doesn't attack Son of Raptor, but rather she acknowledges her relationship with her dad is what it is. It's part of why she is who she is. Her dad might not change. And she even confronts Son of Raptor with yeah, you use violence against your dad. Be it in the form of word, in the form of rhyme, you used violence against your dad to try and break out rather than accepting the relationship that you had. And it was just a really powerful moment of accepting, coming to terms, and realizing who she was, who her family was, and just finding peace with it through music. And it was incredible. Then we have the finale in season 10. I think this is one of the best TV finales of all time. It's just hard to figure out how to finish a series, but I think the series does it really well. What happened before this, you have Princess Bubblegum, her family-ish people. You have Fern, which was kind of a clone of Finn that felt like Finn did him wrong. And all these, like, people from their past, there's these past traumas coming back. It's finally all coming to a head. And here's your another great war. And even the way the episode framed, it's BMO in the future talking to some new characters. And it's framed in here's another great war, just like the Great Mushroom War. And you think the cycle is going to continue. But instead, they end up being forced to confront and work through their trauma, their past. They come to a place where they're not going to have war. And guess what? Golb himself shows up. Discord itself showed up because the war was supposed to happen. The war didn't happen. Discord shows up. And people start dying. Characters start getting crushed. The tree house that Finn and Jake live in, destroyed, completely brought to the ground. You see BMO come out. His screen is cracked. Jake's like, oh, I couldn't save you, BMO. He goes, yeah, you know what? You've always saved us. You've always been there for us. Let us be there for you this time, Jake. BMO's the only one left standing. Everybody else is knocked out, appears dead, in a hole, stepped on, whatever, right? But BMO's there holding little Jake after Jake got crushed. Princess Bubblegum and Marceline end up coming back up to get there. Also, they share a kiss. It wasn't technically the first gay kiss on television. There had been some before, but a lot of people say this was the first meaningful one. Their relationship had been hinted at and kind of showed all throughout the series. A lot of us missed it. When I go back and watch it, I'm like, wow, that was always there. And it finally comes to a head. They have their kiss on screen. It was earned. It was meaningful. Different series come out after Adventure Time where you see some of the characters come back. They're still in a relationship, and that just makes me so happy. Their relationship is precious. It's wonderful. Great stuff. But anyway, Princess Bubblegum and Marceline are getting back up. They're coming over to BMO because the giant monster goes to crush BMO one more time after he picks up Jake. And BMO had started singing because, he's an innocent little kid. That's what he does. And the monster couldn't get him. So he sings the song, and it starts with time is just an illusion. And things happen again and again. But we will always be together back then. And BMO sings this beautiful song to Jake. The monster's not able to get him. Princess Bubblegum, being the scientist she is, goes, wait a minute. Golb is just discord. So if we are in harmony, that's the best thing to fight discord. And we see music already had an important role throughout the show. We already seen cycles being a big role. Then we get this number, and I don't know. This number gives me chills, personally. I just think it's incredible. So the song's title is Time Adventure. play on adventure time, and it talks about time being an illusion. How there's always cycles. How it's not just linear. It talks about it in some impressive, incredible ways. Just gonna play a little bit of this.
Okay, will happen, happening, happen. Will happen, happening, happen. And will happen again and again. 'Cause you and I always be back then.
Oh man, he hates music.
To where we were and hang each moment up like pictures. Inside a billion tiny frames so that we could see it all. It would look like will happen, happening, happen. Will happen, happening, happen. And there we are again and again. 'Cause you and I will always be back then.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. Even Ice King ends up with a somewhat full story. The love of his life ends up sacrificing herself, and he becomes Simon again. And the moment, the finale, this show wraps everything up so well. You see all the characters throughout 10 series make an appearance of some sort, and all your main characters are here on a battlefield that they chose not to fight in, being attacked by discord itself, winning with a song that the words are just so meaningful. They're so touching. It's like time is just an illusion. We talk in present tense so that things make more sense, but it's all a cycle. It says, but you and I will happen, are happening, have happened, and it will happen again and again. You and I will happen again and again, because you and I will always be back then. And what it's saying is like, yeah, there's a cycle. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be disarray. As long as life exists, as long as we are humans existing with other humans, humanoids existing with other humanoids, living things with consciousness, with free will, living with other living things that have free will, guess what? There's always going to be conflict. Maybe we didn't choose war this time. Maybe we will next time. Maybe the comet doesn't hit the Earth this time. Maybe it does. Maybe it hits it next time. Maybe, who knows? The cycle is going to continue, though. Life will continue. The story will continue, even if it's just a cycle. And what we do know is that we have a choice. What we could choose in the cycle of war, of life, of death, the cycle of discord, rhythm, music, silence. We can choose each other. And we know that in the past we have chosen each other. And we can always look back and say, hey, that happened. And right now I'm still choosing you, so it's happening. And in the future I will choose you again, so it will happen. And it's going to happen again and again. The cycle is going to keep happening. The cycle isn't going to stop. But we can choose one another in the cycle. So it's not a story of despair. It's not saying that there's no meaning because it's just going to happen again. It's not saying there's no future. It's not saying any of that. What it's saying is, even though cycles exist, even though we might all die, there might be discord, not the app. We still have each other. We still have community. We still have love. And seeing everyone sing together in community on a battleground where they chose not to fight and they defeat discord itself because they chose to sing a song together. They chose one another. I don't know. It's just one of the most powerful things to me. And then some people are like, oh, it's a cop-out. People still died. Fern dies. Finn's clone person that he came to terms with, he made peace with, kind of dies. Like, he kind of comes back because, cycles. But in a way, he dies. Betty, Simon's former lover, Ice King's past, she made that sacrifice. As far as I know, she's not back yet. She exists as Golba now. It's weird. There was real loss. There was real consequences. And yet, everything's a cycle. And yet, we choose one another, even in the darkest times. It will happen. It's happening. And it'll happen again and again. I don't know. I love that song. It means a lot to me. And it's not the last song we're going to play. Because one last time at the end, they're kind of processing all this. Finn and Jake are laying with the face hole. The face hole's back from season 8. We haven't seen it since season 8. and it came up with a new song it wants to sing them. And it's the song that's played at the end of every Adventure Time. So we find out this is where the song comes from, that played at the end of every episode. But we get the full version here. I'm not going to play the full version, but I think you should listen to all of it. And we get it in context. And it, I don't know, it feels extra meaningful when you hear it in context after that last, I want to say battle, but it wasn't really a battle, that last episode. So yeah, I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Come along with me. Remember butterflies and bees. We can wander through the forest and do so as we please. Come along with me.
Yeah, and it continues. It says, come along with me. And maybe next summer you'll come again. I'll share my favorite things with you. We'll go, we'll see the butterflies and the bees and the water, and we'll contemplate life. But come along with me. What a good ending, right? We have this, like, cycles happen. Loss happens, sacrifice happens, death happens. In the face of that, we have a song about choosing one another again and again as the cycle continues. And then the show concludes with an invitation. Not like a final answer, not a like, oh, here's what you do, not a, good conclusion. Here's how Finn and Jake live the rest of their life. Rather, they're just hanging out on the side of a hill in the song inviting us to come along and see the butterflies and bees. I love it, man. It's just such a good show, such a powerful ending there. And the way they use music all throughout, to me, it's just couldn't be better. And I love that invitation. And I hope we all see that. Like, one of the most powerful things about Adventure Time is, even though it's a show and we're talking online on a podcast and it's like TV and technology, all this stuff, the powerful thing about Adventure Time is a lot of it is about getting out there, doing something, seeing the world, seeing the birds and the bees, being like Jake and appreciating the sound of the bubbling creek, coming to terms with the storm, coming to terms with the fact that you're going to lose relationships. You're going to lose people important to you. Finn's dad will never be a dad that's there for him. That's a thing in the show. Coming to terms with things, finding peace, and getting out there in nature and just having harmony, finding the Tao, if you will. It's just a beautiful show, and I hope everyone at least takes the time to see some of it, even if you're not into cartoons, because I think it's powerful, and the way they use music is just, I don't know, to me it was incredible. I just finished watching the show again, and it just made me want to sit down and have this conversation. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and that you'll keep tuning in and come along with me. Maybe next time we'll talk about the sounds of the birds and the bees. Who knows? Consider rating and reviewing this show, subscribing wherever you get your podcast. That kind of stuff really helps the algorithms say that this show is important so that other people will see it. Share it with a friend. Word of mouth is always the best way to get things to spread. So I really appreciate if you guys take the time to do that. And we hope that you guys can join us in continuing to find more music to sing along with. Come along with us, right? Find some more music, and let's talk about it together. If you want to do your own episode, let us know. Shoot us an email. We'll be happy to host an episode that you record on this channel, this podcast, and just make some joyful noises together. Even as our world is engulfed in war, even as the marginalized are being hurt, even as darkness seems to be around, love will continue, death will continue, hope, fear will continue, anxiousness is going to continue. In the midst of all that, I hope that you will come along with me, and let's all choose one another in eternal love, again and again.